Hi there, I'm Nicole Crank, and I want to welcome you to Faith Church. Welcome you to Faith Church. You're at home, in your living room, sitting on the couch, laying in bed. No, you don't have to put clothes on. We're actually coming to you right now. You know, my husband has a message today that is just going to encourage you. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to give you hope. It's called He Fetched Me. Do you know that somebody loved you so much they went out to get you? Oh yeah, it's absolutely true. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial. Your day is about to get better.
Look at your neighbor and say, you got blessed, you got to sit by me today. So here we go. Yesterday I woke up in a hotel in Branson, Missouri with Nicole. And I'd been down there at a convention, and we did a bunch of television and stuff, and thousands of people there that night. And yesterday morning I woke up and I had my sermons planned, the videos planned, the creative, like our sermons are planned out weeks in advance. In fact, our Pirate series is coming up in a few weeks. It's already planned. And the Lord spoke to me and said, hey, I want you to change your sermon. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Church starts at 5 o'clock. And I didn't wake up till like 11 because, we were up all night. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But then the Lord downloaded this message. So if the message is no good and it's not creative, just send God an email. It's not my fault, okay? So here we go. First of all, we're going to start out in 2 Samuel. And I'm just going to briefly get you acquainted with this text. 2 Samuel chapter 9. It said, and the king said, is there yet not any of the house of Saul that I may show kindness unto? And they said unto him, Jonathan has a son who is lame in his feet. Look at your neighbor and say, you're lame as well. Go ahead, just do it. It's going to make sense. Verse 5 says, then King David sent and fetched him. King David went and fetched him. So here's the story. King David is the king, and if you're the king, it comes with a lot of entourage. And he is looking for someone of the household of Saul that he can bless. Is there anybody out there I can bless? And that was of his lineage. And they said, Jonathan does have a son who is still alive. And technically, he should have been king because that's the way it lines up. If daddy was king and then you're king, and they passed that on, not in nepotism, but it was the way they just did it. And so, but he had been dropped as a child. There was a war coming, and the maid picked him up, and they were running out, and they dropped him on a rock, and now he's basically paralyzed from his waist down. So now what they would do back then is they would take all the disabled, crippled people, then they would put them in a space called Lodebar, which means parched pastures, no water, no foliage. Now, it's just a bad place to be, and they just kind of left them out there to die, and they'd feed them. And they said, he's there. David says, oh man, I'm gonna go fetch him. I'm gonna go get him. Now, all of a sudden, all these limos, basically, these chariots start coming. All the protective horsemen started coming. And in fact, though I see it more clearly than I ever did before because our church in Palm Beach, in fact, they're having church right now, and there's as many people in that church this morning as here. So just picture this. We started this church in Palm Beach before President Trump was president. So it was just a town. But now when he's there on the weekends, it is horrible because there's like hundreds of motorcade, hundreds of cops. When he comes into town, you can't believe it. They put like 150 school buses around his plane because someone might want to shoot him. It's crazy because apparently he's got a lot of haters. And so they said this is the way Obama rolled and everybody rolled. When you're the president, there's all this stuff. So now Mephibosheth, who's lame in his feet, hears the sound of all the wheels and chariots running, and he starts saying, what's going on? And then when they get out of the chariots, they say, we're looking for Mephibosheth. Now at this point he gets nervous because he realizes, oh my gosh, King David is looking for me. I bet they're gonna kill me because they think I'm a threat, but I promise I'm not a threat. I can't even walk. Do you know sometimes when God wants to do something great in your life, you self-sabotage? You don't believe that he would ever ask you out. You don't believe that they would ever give you the job because you are looking at your lameness instead of God wanting to fetch you. Somebody ought to say amen right now. And so we look at what we're not instead of celebrating who we are and whose we are. You're lame. David said, I've been looking for you my whole life. We're going to take you. Do you live here? What do you eat? You're so dirty. Your clothes are ripped. Oh, you're a child of the king. Oh, if I had only known that you were struggling, if I'd have known you were lame, if I'd have known, oh, I feel bad. And they take him all of a sudden to the palace, and it says that every day he ate at the king's table. They would fetch him every morning and clean him up and put a new robe on him, and they would sit him at the table. And part of the reason, if you study it, that he liked sitting at the table is because for 1 minute in his life, for maybe an hour at lunch and an hour at dinner, he felt normal because they set him at the table and the tablecloth hid his lameness and he was erect like everyone else and his personality came out. In fact, when he wasn't at the table, people would be like, oh, where's the life of the party? Somebody go fetch him. Where is he at? Somebody needs to be the Tommy boy at the table. Somebody ought to hear what I'm saying. Favor pulled him out of Lo-debar. Favor, God's love, pulled him out of the parched pasture. And it didn't check with his lameness to see if he qualified to be at the table. If God wants to fetch you, honey, he'll fetch you and put you to places you never thought possible, not based on anything but God's goodness. Somebody ought to help me today. Come on, Weldon. Shout, I've been fetched. And here's the problem. Sometimes we focus too much on the pain of our past. We say, I'm just a dog. Remember the woman in the Bible who said, I'm a dog, but even the dogs get the crumbs that fall from the master's table. Don't have a dog mentality. When Jesus died on the cross, and we celebrate Holy Week, when he died, you no longer get what you deserve. You get what he deserves, and now he has fetched you and set you at the table. So get your steak knife out, honey. Come on, somebody out there now. Say, pass the pork. Somebody pass me the potatoes over here. I'll take the collard greens. There shouldn't be any shame in your game when you realize what God has done for you. But he started inspecting himself, looking too deep, thinking it was never going to change. Now, here's one of the things that I like to do all the time. And when I preach, it's a lot different than most preachers because most preachers never really let you know about their pain. They don't tell you about the betrayal of their family. They don't tell you about the loss of their dad. They don't tell you about divorce. I remember when I got divorced and I couldn't sleep at night, living in a basement apartment in Baldwin. No furniture because I lost all my money. Lost most of my friends, went with her. How many of y'all know it's horrible? You lose your friends, you lose your money, you lose your dignity, you're betrayed. I would lay there at night and the only way I could sleep was hold onto my pillow and lie to myself that she was still there. I know what it's like. Some of you know what it's like. But nobody else would tell you what I just told you. But what I'm doing and how I built this church was I see myself like Mephibosheth and I'm lame in my feet and I know the only way I got here is I just drug myself up every day and I drag myself up and tell you about what I'm not so you can find out who you are and that God didn't check with your past to see what he was going to do in your future. Somebody ought to help me right now. God can do incredible things with people who lower themselves and say, I can do it. I believe I can fly. You gotta believe it. Stop focusing on the lameness. And then here's another key aspect. Don't listen to the enemy or the enemy about why God has fetched you. And then don't listen to the other people who are so-called friends who try to disqualify you because they don't know what God has for you. They're trying to judge what God's going to do for you on what God did for them. So you've got to let the wrong people leave your life so the right people can enter your life so you can come out of the barren pastures of Lo-debar where you're lonely and rejected. Well, I just can't let them go because I'll be alone. I'd rather be lonely alone than lonely with somebody. So you got to let them go. And then stop listening to those other people. I don't know how many friends I have on Facebook. Let's just look. So I'm not sure they're all friends on Facebook. But Facebook has this ability for people to communicate back with you. And so on Facebook, I have 44,407 friends. Out of 44,407 friends, I always, every day, have some people who don't think I qualify, who say, you don't qualify. You and Joel don't qualify. You need to preach from the Bible. You two don't preach from the Bible. I got one so big it could be a protective device for some kind of home robbery. I preach from the Bible, but then what happens if you listen to them, you start preaching to them. So you got 2 haters and 44,000 people that like you, and now you're taking all your time and you're focusing on the hater. So you now are focused on the person who left you, who said you were lame, instead of saying, where's my wagon? When are they coming to get me? I know my prince is coming. I know my breakthrough's coming, but you're focused on what they said instead of what he said. Somebody ought to help me right now. And that's why you got to connect with God, connect with people, discover your purpose, and make a difference. If you don't do it, you never go into your purpose. God came in the garden and he said, Adam, where art thou? He said, I was afraid and I hid myself. Why do you keep hiding yourself? You like me and Nicole because we don't hide ourselves. I'm perfect and you're not, and we're going to fix you. Well, you know right away that preacher's jacked up and he's got a lying problem. In fact, you can know what a preacher's problem is because he preaches all the time. He's preaching on sin, and you need to stop lust, and you need to stop messing around with women. And that guy got a woman problem. You got to quit drinking. You got to quit doing drugs. He's maxed out. He's got holy hangovers on Monday. He got a drinking problem. So whenever a guy's like, oh, man, you need to stay away from women, and you need to blah, blah, blah. Stay away from, don't let that guy counsel with your wife alone. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So Nicole and I allow this intimacy to happen that most people don't do publicly. Intimacy is into me see. We allow you to see, I hang on my pillow at night, pretend she was still there because I was rejected and abandoned. Then I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning and realized she wasn't there, and this wasn't a dream, and it was really my reality, and it took time to go through it. But what didn't kill me made me stronger, and it made me appreciate Nicole when she came in, and I was dragging my little lame divorce hide, overweight, rejected, and I can't look her in the eye and say I love her. She just kept nursing me back to health. She fetched me, put me up at the table, and said, you're going to be good. Something about, oh, boy, I like you. There's something about you. Oh, boy. Yeah, you. I like the way you crunch. I like the way you talk. I just want to be with you. Now my confidence is coming back. Because behind every good man is a surprise mother-in-law. But there is a good woman. Somebody ought to shout amen. And there's a right people in your life, and God is going to fetch you, and he's going to bring you out of these parched pastures. But you've got to quit allowing people to define you and your present circumstances to define you. Stop letting other people judge you. And at some point, to live the life that you really want to live, you got to live it with the people that you love. And you got to let somebody love you. You don't look anybody in the eye, and you don't feel pretty. You don't feel confident because your dad said you were stupid and you had the wrong. God loved your dad. I don't know why your dad said that, but you were not. God didn't make any junk, and I'll be your new dad, and I'll tell you that God has good plans for you, and you are smart, and you have something that somebody else can have, and you might not be able to read well, but you're good with your hands. Somebody ought to say, man, you can build stuff, and you can make good things happen, and you need the right day in your life because God sent me today in a host of wagons to fetch you and take you out of this large area of parchment, this barren area, this dusty, dry area, and take you from where you are to where he has you. And for one time every week, you at least ought to sit at the table and hide your lameness and say, I feel important today. I feel like God loves me today. I feel like God is for me today. And stop worrying about people wondering if you're lame and you're dragging your feet. Who cares? For our second Bible. You know you're in trouble when I bring 2 guns. 2 Samuel chapter 9. He set military commanders over the people and gathered the people at the square of the city. Then he encouraged them. Notice that's what I'm doing to you right now. That's the key to winning friends and influencing people and bringing out the best in people. Be strong and courageous, he said. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Most of your problems with fear with life is fear. Be not afraid or discouraged before the king of Assyria, before this large army that is with him. Key point, there are more with us than with them. He has only human strength, but we have Yahweh to fight our battles. Hezekiah has this huge army that is attacking them. All the people of God are afraid because they can hear the stomping of the chariots, they hear the pitter-patter of the horses, and they hear this mighty army coming against them. And Hezekiah has the audacity to look over the wall and say, hey, you guys don't be discouraged and you don't be afraid because there's more with us than with them. And they're like, you could have fooled me because there's a few hundred of us and there's thousands of them. But he said, no, I'm not looking in our own strength. They only have their own strength. We have Yahweh with us. God will fight our battles. And if you read the story, God shows up, slaughters them. It's an amazing victory and a huge win because he tapped into the God potential. Hezekiah said, listen, God came to bring us out of this parched pasture, much like Mephibosheth. God came to do extraordinary things in us. Don't allow the fear to keep you from where God has called you to go. And if you start doing the math on your miracle, you can't figure out how you're going to do this. This morning, I put milk in my coffee. I don't know how milk gets here. I don't know how a brown cow eats green grass, gives white milk, but I don't even think about it. I just put it in there. You don't have to figure out how you're going to meet your man. You don't have to figure out how you're going to build a business. You've got to work on you, and when you work on you and you say the battle is the Lord and the victory is ours, there is no God as big as my God. I'm blessed, I'm favored, I'm talented, I'm abnormally focused on the Lord. I'm not worried about what didn't happen. I'm going to celebrate what did happen. I'm going to be grateful because if I'm not grateful, I am hateful. And so I want to say, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I want to go in God's sanctuary every day and say, oh, yes, God, I come before you singing. Yes, God, I come before you with dancing. And then you act like things are right, even if they're not right. And if you do that long enough, they will become right. But the battle's not yours, it's the Lord's. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, if you read this passage, and I would suggest you do it today, God will speak to you out of 2 Chronicles 32. But if we run down to verse 22, it says, and the Lord saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from that evil king, and he gave them rest on every side. Many of them brought valuable offerings to the Lord because that's one of the things you do is when God blesses you, you bless God back. And then verse 26 says, and in those days Hezekiah became sick to the point of death. And he prayed and the Lord spake to him and gave him a miracle. So he's sick, God healed him. However, everybody shout, however. This is a big one. However, because his heart was proud, Hezekiah did not respond. Here's the biggest thing that'll take you out once God does do this big thing for you. A little thing called P-R-I-D-E, pride. Pride. God resists the proud. He gives grace to the humble. After everything God did for Hezekiah, he can remember those thousands of chariots coming to destroy him, and God delivered him. He's all these miracles. God raised him up financially. And my daddy used to tell me, he said, son, do you know what's hard? The hardest test is not failure. The hardest test is success. Because when you're failing, you're hungry. You're praying, oh, God, if you help me do this, God, oh, if you help me, God. I remember when we were at Fenton and the church started growing and nobody was there, just kind of you guys, and there was 180 people. I'm like, someday there's going to be thousands of people come to our church. I see them, they're coming. There's going to be gay people, straight people, lesbian people. There's going to be white people, black people. There's going to be sinners. There's going to be attorneys. There's going to be, and I'm prophesying, and they're like, you're crazy. We've been here for 20 years, and this has never happened. But I was praying, God, use me, God, help me. And then God gave us our city, and I stepped out and I signed my name to like this huge loan that even the accountant said, this is stupid, you're $1,400 away from going broke. And I went and signed my name because I was hungry, and I said, God, I know you will do it. Oh, God, please help me do it. And we did it. We bought the biggest bar in the state of Missouri, and then we came here and we bought this place. And if you'd have told me that we'd have owned this, and when we signed our name to $7.7 million, if you would have told me that within 5 years, over 5 years, we'd have to spend another $8 million to make it look this way, I would have said, I can't do it. God doesn't reveal to you all the things you're going to need. You just got to step out and start walking on the water and be a hungry, humble hustler pushing through to the next move that God has for you. But then when you do get blessed, the big danger is you start believing your own press. You're great, you're awesome. Remember how I said I don't read those bad things they say about me on Facebook? I don't always read the good stuff either. It's nice when you say nice things. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that if somebody totally pumps me up and makes me larger than life, I go, I don't need to hear that. Because you start thinking you're that. You know how it is, you see some person that's very pretty, but they're almost ugly because they know they're so pretty. I don't struggle with that, so I judge people in that. I go, if I had the kind of money you thought you were worth, I'd pay off the church today and build a few new ones. We don't want to be that way. But to tell you the truth, we don't need to judge them. Who cares that they think they're all that? Just look the other way. I'm working on me. I'm too busy judging me to judge them. So I'm going to look at me, and I'm not going to look at them, and I'm going to try to be the best version of me that me can be, because really I don't even have an opinion to judge people, because after all, I was the guy living in a basement apartment with no education, didn't go to seminary, don't qualify for this job, but through the into me see, I didn't hide myself. And then as a result, thousands of people came only for the grace of God. But I think they came because it was an organic place where Catholics could come and Baptists could come and Presbyterians could come, all under one roof, saying we're here not because of religion, but because of a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I want to be the best version that I can be and enjoy me. Am I helping anybody today? Come on, Weldon, I see you. As I close, there's a couple things I want to say. Stop not only judging other people, but don't allow pride to make you think that you can judge other people. And then what you can do immediately to make your relationships better is start speaking life into people and telling them how great they are. So Nicole, she struggles all the time because she gets more abuse and hits and heartache from people, religious people, who take all the scriptures out of context of why she can't be a pastor and that women can't be preachers and all this stuff. And so it's huge. There's actually, you can't believe it, which I think is the dumbest thing in the world, because, I mean, the first one who preached the gospel was Mary, who came and said he's been resurrected. I mean, the first preacher in the Bible was a woman preacher, so it's absolutely ridiculous. I personally believe, now I'm the only mega pastor in America who empowered a full-time mega pastor woman, but I blazed the trail, and Nicole is blazing the trail for young girls in the future who say we're being able to be used by God just like a man, and if you want it done right, you need a woman to do it. Come on, somebody. And so she takes all that heat. So even yesterday, she called me because some people came against her really bad. And these were very important people in the church world, and they were big. And I said, Nicole, you've got to drag yourself up to that stage tomorrow and just show everybody your lameness. And yeah, you didn't go to school. And yes, they say you don't qualify. But if you go out and put your pain on display and you preach hope to people, I promise you God will show up because he is with you. And that built her back up. And she called me this morning because every Saturday night, one of us fly to the different cities so we can preach at the different places. She called me this morning, and she said, I'm feeling it. I'm ready to do it. I didn't have a sermon, but I got one now. I say, you go, girl. Go, white girl. Go, white girl. Go. Go, white girl. Go, white girl. Go. And so she started preaching, and then I saw it on Instagram, and I saw it on Facebook, and she went up there and exploded because she was another person just like me who was absolutely not qualified. Nobody suspected her to be a preacher. When I met her, nobody dreamed that she would do this. She didn't dream it. But I kept telling her, Nicole, it's in you. Nicole, you're a great communicator. My gosh, you're absolutely beautiful. Now, it's important to tell people about your pain because they're going to judge you and think, oh, she doesn't have a problem because she's a supermodel. You think I'm a supermodel? Oh, yeah, I do. But what about these stretch marks? Those aren't stretch marks. Those are beauty marks for the two beautiful babies that you gave me. Come on, give God praise.
Hey, my friends on BVOVN. Aren't you feeling better, encouraged? I know, David when he talks, my soul just gets blessed. I hear that from everybody. You might be thinking right now, I wish I could hear it again. Do I have a gift for you? You know what? We're givers. We like to give things to people. So if you want today's message for free, a free DVD, all you have to do is, call the number on the bottom of the screen, give us your address. Don't worry, David and I won't show up at the house for dinner. Or go on the website, faithchurch.com/free DVD. Boom, 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 put your address in, and whoop, we show up in your mailbox. Not literally, just the DVD. But it's gonna bless your heart. So allow us to be a blessing to you. Allow us to give and use you as our harvest field. Speaking of giving, I just wanna thank Kenneth and Gloria Copeland for allowing us to be on the Believer's Voice of Victory Network television program. Do you know that they give us this television time? They are such a blessing. So as we're giving to you, if you wanna give to them, what a blessing it would be. Join us next week and go get your free DVD, would you? I'm trying to give you something. Have a great day.
When my parents got divorced, I was probably 8 years old, and my dad left. I started getting into trouble, being pretty rebellious, and by the age of 14, I was kicked out of school for drinking in the bathrooms, and at 19, I was arrested for serious drug charges and in jail. Pretty much for the next 15, 20 years, I was on drugs, and I had been in 13 car accidents, been paralyzed from the waist up for 6 months. The point when I was 37 years old, I couldn't even get out of bed without, doing what I needed to do so I wouldn't be sick and throwing up. I was so addicted to painkillers. Man, I've hit rock bottom like 20 times in my life, and start over and start over and start over. I've decided to move down here to Florida to go to rehab. When I was in treatment, I learned with my therapist and stuff a lot more about what they had diagnosed me with the depression, anxiety, PTSD from when I was in a hunting accident. After I got my cable and stuff turned on, Pastor David was talking about healing. It was exactly how I had been believing how he was talking. And I hadn't really heard many people talk about healing like the way he was talking about it. So immediately got plugged in, with the iConnect groups, and that was when things really started changing for me, because I got to get to know people. It was like you became part of the church. Faith Church has changed my life a lot. I get a lot of guidance through the messages at Faith Church and a lot of confirmation. Sometimes I'll come in there to a service and Pastor David or Pastor Nicole be talking about something that I had been doing right in my life, or something that I might need to be working on. I don't have to take nothing now at all. I take no medications or any of that stuff. Who would have ever known that God would take someone like me that was down and out on drugs and finally brought them to a place to where finally have your life together as far as having a wife and a family. And here I've been fighting my whole life to have all these things, and God just gave them to me like in the last couple years.